Get down and lick my shoes clean, you filthy animal. Bradford Sterling's voice echoes through the marble lobby of the Grand Meridian Hotel. Diana Washington kneels among scattered cleaning supplies, her uniform soaked with spilled chemicals. Sterling's spit hits her dark face. His manicured hand strikes her cheek hard, snapping her head sideways. That's all you people are worth, cleaning up after real Americans. Wealthy guests in $1,000 suits gasp and pull out phones. Sterling grabs Diana's hair, forcing her face toward his Italian leather shoes. She doesn't cry. She doesn't beg. Her eyes stay locked on his face, memorizing every detail. What Sterling doesn't know is that Diana Washington has been recording his crimes for 3 months. What he doesn't know is that she's not a janitor. Federal agents are moving through the crowd. Hit subscribe because this takedown gets absolutely devastating. 6 hours earlier, Diana Washington's alarm buzzed at 5:30 in the morning. Her small, efficient apartment looked ordinary enough. Cheap furniture, faded curtains, the kind of place a hotel janitor might afford. But look closer and you'd notice things that didn't quite fit. The pull-up bar in the doorway, the martial arts equipment tucked behind the couch, the stack of financial documents marked Operation Clean Sweep, hidden beneath cleaning supply catalogs. Diana wasn't just any hotel worker. She was a 15-year CIA veteran specializing in financial crimes and money laundering operations. Diana showered quickly and pulled on her hotel uniform. The name tag read D. Washington, Housekeeping. She clipped a tiny camera to her collar, so small it looked like a button. Her cleaning cart wasn't just for supplies. The bottom compartment held surveillance equipment that could crack encrypted drives and photograph documents in seconds. At 7:30, Diana badged into the Grand Meridian's employee entrance. The hotel screamed old money and new tech wealth. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, guests who dropped more on breakfast than most people made in a week. It was the perfect place for someone like Bradford Sterling to hide his crimes. Security guard Teresa Johnson nodded as Diana passed. Tess had 20 years of military experience and sharp eyes. She'd noticed things about Diana that others missed. The way she carried herself, the way she observed everything. Tess suspected Diana wasn't what she seemed, but she kept her thoughts to herself. Diana had been tracking Sterling's operation for 3 months. Every Tuesday, mysterious briefcases moved through room 1247. Sterling used the hotel's business center for what he called consulting meetings. Diana knew better. She'd photographed enough documents to understand the real business. Money laundering, crypto transfers, shell companies in 8 different countries. The hotel manager, James Rivera, was getting nervous. He'd been fielding strange calls about federal auditors asking questions. Rivera suspected something big was coming, but he didn't know what. He just knew that Sterling paid the hotel enough money to buy silence. Other staff members whispered about Diana, too. "She's too smart for cleaning," said Maria, the housekeeper. "She asks weird questions about the business center," mentioned David, the bartender. "Something's different about her," agreed Angela, the concierge. Diana had learned Sterling's patterns. He arrived every Tuesday at noon with Viktor Kozlov, a Russian crypto trader with connections to offshore banks. They'd spend 2 hours in the business center, moving millions through encrypted channels. Sterling thought he was invisible. He treated hotel staff like furniture, never imagining they might be watching. Today was different, though. Today was the big transfer. $50 million in stolen government tech contracts would disappear forever into untraceable accounts. Diana's months of patient surveillance had led to this moment. She'd gathered enough evidence to destroy Sterling's entire network, but she needed one final piece. Proof of the terrorist funding connection. Sterling owned a penthouse suite and had invested heavily in the hotel's management company. That gave him special access and the arrogance to conduct illegal business right under everyone's noses. He believed money made him untouchable. He believed his wealth put him above the law. Diana finished preparing her cleaning cart and headed toward the business center. Hidden in the supply compartments were devices that could photograph documents, clone hard drives, and intercept wireless communications. Every conversation would be recorded. Every transaction would be traced. Sterling's fatal flaw was his assumption that service workers were invisible and stupid. He'd never suspect that the quiet black woman mopping floors around his meetings was actually a federal agent building an airtight case against him. As Diana pushed her cart toward Sterling's usual meeting room, she had no idea that today would be the day everything changed. Today would be the day Sterling's mask finally slipped completely off. 3:15 p.m. Diana pushes her cleaning cart toward the hotel's business center. Through glass doors, she sees Bradford Sterling concluding a consulting meeting. 4 men in expensive suits shake hands around a conference table. Briefcases exchange hands. Documents get signed. Diana knows better. She's tracked this pattern for weeks. These aren't business contracts. They're cryptocurrency transfer authorizations disguised as consulting agreements. Today's meeting moved $47 million through shell companies, converting dirty government contracts into clean offshore accounts. Sterling dismisses his associates. Diana positions herself near the conference room, spraying glass cleaner on spotless windows. The men file out, carrying briefcases like they contain lunch. Victor Kozlov nods to Sterling before disappearing into the elevator. Marcus Carter follows, his encrypted phone buzzing with confirmation codes. Diana waits 2 minutes after the last man leaves. Sterling should be gone, heading to his penthouse to celebrate another successful transfer. She slips into the conference room, her camera recording. The table holds scattered documents that Sterling's people carelessly left behind. Her heart races as she photographs each page. Bank routing numbers, cryptocurrency wallet addresses, shell company names that exist only on paper. This is evidence the FBI needs. Proof that Sterling Dynamics launders money on a massive scale, converting government tech contracts into untraceable payments. As Diana lifts the final document, she hears footsteps. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" Bradford Sterling stands in the doorway, face twisted with suspicion and rage. His expensive suit is perfect, silver hair styled to broadcast authority, but his eyes hold paranoia of a man who knows he's being hunted. Diana freezes, document in her hands. She forces her face into the expression she's practiced for months. Confused, apologetic, afraid. "Sorry, sir. Just cleaning around your papers." Sterling steps closer. Diana smells his cologne mixed with fear sweat. "Were you reading those documents?" "No, sir, I can't really." Diana trails off, playing someone too uneducated to understand complex financial paperwork. "You can't really do what?" Sterling's voice rises. "Read? Think? Use that empty head for anything besides pushing a mop?" Hotel guests in the hallway slow down. A woman in pearls stops checking her phone. A businessman pauses his conversation to stare through glass doors. The attention makes Sterling more agitated, desperate to control the situation. "I should have known," he continued, voice dripping with contempt. "They sent you, didn't they? Which competitor hired you to spy on my business?" Diana shakes her head, maintaining cover even as every instinct screams to drop the act and arrest him. "Sir, I don't understand. I'm just here to empty trash and clean tables." Sterling snatches documents from her hands so violently that paper cuts slice her fingers. Blood drops hit the mahogany table. "Corporate espionage. That's what this is. You people think you can waltz in here and steal from your betters." The stakes crystallize. If Diana's cover gets blown now, 3 months of investigation dies. If Sterling realizes what she's doing, $47 million disappears forever into untraceable accounts. If the terrorism funding operation Diana suspects is real, people will die because she couldn't maintain cover for 1 more day. Sterling isn't finished with her yet. Sterling grabs Diana's arm, his manicured fingers digging deep enough to leave bruises. His paranoia has transformed into rage. The kind that comes from a lifetime of believing the world owes him everything, and anyone who challenges that deserves punishment. "You're coming with me," he hisses, dragging her toward the lobby. "We're going to settle this properly, where everyone can see what happens to thieves." Diana could break his grip in 3 different ways. Her CIA training includes 17 methods for disabling an attacker twice Sterling's size. But breaking cover now means losing everything. So she stumbles along behind him, playing the role of a frightened cleaning lady, being manhandled by her social superior. The Grand Meridian's lobby spreads before them like a stage set for Sterling's performance. Afternoon light streams through crystal chandeliers, casting rainbow patterns across marble floors that cost more than most people's houses. Wealthy guests sip champagne at tables arranged around a fountain that probably costs more than Diana's annual salary. Sterling shoves Diana into the center of the lobby, her cleaning cart toppling behind them. Bleach bottles scatter across expensive tile with sharp plastic sounds that make everyone look up from their conversations. The sudden silence feels heavy, expectant. "Ladies and gentlemen," Sterling announces, his voice carrying that particular authority that comes from never being told no. "I've just caught this woman photographing confidential business documents. Corporate espionage, plain and simple." A murmur ripples through the crowd. Phone cameras emerge like flowers turning toward sunlight. Diana counts at least 15 people recording, their devices capturing every angle of what they think is just another rich man throwing his weight around. "Sir, please," Diana says, her voice pitched perfectly to sound helpless and confused. "I was just cleaning. I don't even know what those papers said." Sterling's laugh is sharp and cruel. "Oh, you don't know? Let me guess, you can't read either? Is that the excuse you people always use when you get caught stealing?" The crowd shifts uncomfortably. Even wealthy people recognize blatant racism when they hear it. But Sterling is too far gone in his rage to care about public opinion. He sees only a threat to his operation, a potential witness who needs to be silenced or discredited. Hotel manager James Rivera appears at the edge of the crowd, his face pale with the kind of fear that comes from watching your biggest VIP customer commit career suicide in public. He approaches carefully, hands raised in a gesture of peace. "Mr. Sterling, perhaps we should handle this privately. In my office, where we can discuss—" "Stay out of this, Rivera." Sterling doesn't even look at the manager. His eyes remain locked on Diana, burning with the kind of hatred that comes from someone who's never been challenged by people he considers beneath him. This is about theft, about corporate espionage, about these people thinking they can spy on their betters. Diana kneels to gather the scattered cleaning supplies, maintaining her submissive posture even as she mentally catalogs every face in the crowd, potential witnesses, future testimony. Evidence that Sterling's mask is finally slipping in front of the very people whose approval he craves most. "Get on your knees properly," Sterling snarls, his voice carrying across the marble lobby. "Show everyone what you really are." The crowd's discomfort becomes visible now. A woman in pearls covers her mouth in shock. A businessman puts down his phone, looking genuinely disturbed. Even the wealthy have limits to how much cruelty they'll witness without flinching. But Sterling is beyond caring about social niceties. 3 months of paranoia, 3 months of knowing someone is hunting him, 3 months of looking over his shoulder have finally broken his carefully maintained facade. The entitled millionaire who usually hides his contempt behind polite society manners is gone, replaced by something uglier and more honest. "You want to know what I think happened here?" Sterling's voice rises with each word. "I think you're too stupid to be a spy. I think you're just another welfare case who thought she could steal from people who actually matter." Security guard Teresa Johnson appears at the lobby's edge, her hand resting on her radio. Former military instincts make her recognize dangerous escalation when she sees it. But Sterling is technically a hotel guest, and Diana is technically an employee. The power dynamics are clear, even if the morality isn't. Sterling reaches down and grabs Diana's hair, yanking her head back so the crowd can see her face. Look at me when I'm talking to you. When your betters are speaking, you pay attention. Diana's training screams at her to respond. Her muscle memory wants to grab his wrist, twist, and put him on the ground in less than 2 seconds. Instead, she looks up at him with eyes that seem submissive but are actually memorizing every detail of his face for the federal prosecutors who will eventually put him away. The crowd watches in stunned silence as Sterling raises his hand. The slap that's coming will change everything. Not just for Diana and Sterling, but for everyone recording, everyone watching, everyone who will see this moment replayed millions of times across social media. Sterling's hand descends toward Diana's face, and the world holds its breath. The slap echoes through the marble lobby. Diana's head snaps sideways, but she doesn't fall. She doesn't cry. Instead, she rises slowly from the scattered cleaning supplies, her posture shifting in a way that makes the watching crowd suddenly pay attention. The submissive janitor is gone. Someone else entirely stands in her place. "Sir," Diana says, her voice carrying new authority that cuts through the stunned silence, "you've just assaulted a federal officer." Sterling freezes, his hand still raised. "What?" Diana reaches into her cleaning cart, past bleach bottles and paper towels, pulling out a leather badge case. She flips it open with practiced precision. The Central Intelligence Agency shield catches afternoon light streaming through crystal chandeliers. "Special Agent Diana Washington, Central Intelligence Agency. You're under investigation for money laundering, Mr. Sterling, and now assault on a federal officer." The lobby erupts, gasps from the crowd. Phones thrust higher. Someone shouts, "Oh my God!" Another voice yells, "Are you getting this?" Sterling's face drains of color, then flushes red. His mouth opens and closes like a fish. "That's impossible. You're just a cleaning lady. You're nobody." "A nobody?" Diana's voice remains steady, professional, but steel underneath. "Is that what you said, Mr. Sterling?" The transformation is complete. Gone is the tired posture. Downcast eyes, subservient manner that made Sterling think he could treat her like property. This woman stands with bearing of someone who's spent 15 years taking down criminals much smarter than Bradford Sterling. Security guard Teresa Johnson steps forward, military training finally making sense of what she'd sensed for months. "Agent Washington, do you require assistance?" Diana nods toward Tess, then addresses the crowd now silent except for clicking phone cameras. "Ladies and gentlemen, what you've witnessed and recorded is assault of a federal agent during an active investigation." Sterling's lawyer training kicks in through his shock. "This is entrapment. This is illegal. You can't pretend to be a hotel employee and spy on people." "Actually, Mr. Sterling, we can. With proper warrants and judicial oversight, which we have." Diana's voice cuts through his protests. "What we can't do is ignore evidence of money laundering, terrorism funding, and assault on federal officers." The crowd presses closer, phone screens glowing as they capture every word. Someone whispers, "This is going viral." Another voice says, "Terrorism funding?" Diana continues, her voice carrying to every corner. "For 3 months, I've documented your operation, converting government contracts into cryptocurrency, moving money through shell companies, funding groups that threaten national security." Sterling's paranoia explodes into desperate rage. "You have nothing! I'm a legitimate businessman! This is harassment!" But his protests sound hollow, especially with video evidence of him assaulting what everyone now knows is a CIA agent. Phones keep recording, capturing his meltdown in high definition. Agent Robert Carter emerges from behind a marble pillar near the hotel bar, badge visible, backup finally revealed. Agent Martinez appears near the elevator bank. The entire lobby operation becomes clear to the watching crowd. Sterling realizes he's surrounded, not just by federal agents, but by dozens of witnesses recording every moment of his complete destruction. 2 million views in 10 minutes, someone calls out, reading their phone screen. Already trending. Diana looks directly at Sterling, her dark eyes holding the promise of justice 15 years in the making. Mr. Sterling, you're under arrest. 4 minutes after Diana flashes her CIA badge, Boston police arrive at the Grand Meridian Hotel looking confused and overwhelmed. Local cops aren't trained to handle federal operations that have just gone viral in real time. Their radios crackle with conflicting orders from supervisors who are frantically calling federal liaisons. Sterling's lawyer, Harold Blackwood, arrives within 8 minutes, his Mercedes screeching to a halt outside the hotel's marble entrance. Expensive suits and entitlement trying to control a narrative that's already spiraling beyond anyone's ability to manage. My client was defending himself against suspected corporate espionage, Blackwood announces to the growing crowd of reporters. He had every right to detain a suspicious person who was photographing confidential business documents. But the lawyer's polished words sound hollow against the backdrop of viral video evidence. Every major social media platform is exploding with footage of Sterling slapping what everyone now knows is a federal agent. The hotel's management goes into full damage control mode. General Manager Patricia Wells calls an emergency board meeting while simultaneously trying to craft a statement that won't destroy the Grand Meridian's reputation. The hotel's official response lands like a lead balloon. This was an unfortunate misunderstanding between a valued guest and a contracted employee. The Grand Meridian regrets any confusion and is cooperating fully with all relevant authorities. Social media users tear the statement apart within minutes. Misunderstanding? He assaulted a CIA agent. Valued guest? You mean violent criminal? The hotel's Twitter mentions become a wasteland of angry responses and boycott threats. Sterling's public relations firm released their own statement 6 hours after the incident, when the viral video had already reached 15 million views across all platforms. The PR damage is catastrophic and irreversible. Mr. Sterling regrets the unfortunate incident that occurred today. He was protecting his intellectual property from potential theft and had no knowledge of the individual's federal employment status. This situation has been blown out of proportion by social media sensationalism. The response backfires spectacularly. Legal experts immediately point out that ignorance of someone's federal employment doesn't excuse assault. Constitutional scholars note that Sterling's behavior would be criminal regardless of Diana's job title. Major news outlets struggle to frame the story in their usual both sides format. How do you create balance when one side shows a millionaire assaulting a federal agent on camera? Conservative commentators attempt to spin the narrative around government overreach and entrapment, but their arguments crumble against the visual evidence. CNN runs the story as Tech Millionaire Assaults Undercover CIA Agent. Fox News tries questions raised about federal surveillance tactics but switches to Millionaire Arrested After Hotel Assault when their own viewers flood social media with criticism. The viral explosion happens faster than anyone predicted. Janitor CIA reaches 25 million impressions in the first 6 hours. Millionaire assault trends worldwide. Underestimate. This becomes a rallying cry for service workers sharing their own stories of abuse by wealthy customers. Black Twitter celebrates with a mixture of satisfaction and recognition. That's what happens when you pick the wrong one. She said federal officer, and I felt that in my soul. Black women stay being underestimated until we're not. But Sterling's business world tries to protect him through quiet channels. Board members from Sterling Dynamics release carefully worded statements about supporting their CEO during difficult times. Business partners publicly distance themselves while privately assuring Sterling of continued cooperation. The polarized reactions split along predictable lines. Sterling's supporters rally around themes of government overreach and entrapment. They flood comment sections with claims that Diana should have identified herself as federal law enforcement before allowing Sterling to incriminate himself. Diana's supporters focus on the obvious injustice of Sterling's behavior and the satisfaction of watching entitled cruelty get exposed. They share the video endlessly, often with commentary about times they've been similarly dismissed or mistreated by people who assumed their powerlessness. Local news stations interview hotel workers who speak anonymously about Sterling's pattern of abusive behavior toward staff. A bartender mentions Sterling's habit of snapping his fingers at servers. A valet describes being screamed at for not bringing Sterling's car fast enough. The half-hearted apologies keep coming. Sterling's second statement, released through his lawyer at midnight, attempts to sound more contrite. "I apologize for any misunderstanding that occurred today. I was acting to protect my company's confidential information and did not intend to cause harm to any individual." But social media users immediately point out that Sterling's apology never actually acknowledges wrongdoing. He apologizes for misunderstanding rather than assault. He claims protection of information rather than admitting he attacked an innocent person. The systemic protection mechanisms activate automatically. Hotel management quietly reaches out to Sterling's people to discuss continued arrangements. Business associates send private messages of support while maintaining public silence. Diana maintains professional silence throughout the media storm, following federal protocols for ongoing investigations. But the footage speaks louder than any statement she could make. The video of Sterling's assault becomes undeniable evidence of his character, and character matters when business partners start asking harder questions about judgment and liability. FBI Financial Crimes Unit, Boston Field Office. Agent Robert Carter stands before a wall-sized display that looks like something from a crime thriller. Red strings connect photographs, bank statements, and corporate documents in a web that spans 3 continents. At the center sits Bradford Sterling's smiling headshot, surrounded by evidence of the most sophisticated money laundering operation the Bureau has seen in years. "Ladies and gentlemen," Carter addresses the packed briefing room, "what started as a simple money laundering investigation has uncovered something much bigger. Sterling Dynamics isn't just stealing taxpayer money, they're funding domestic terrorism." The timeline stretches across the entire wall. March 15th, Sterling meets with Viktor Kozlov, a Russian cryptocurrency trader with ties to organized crime. Hotel security footage shows briefcases changing hands in the Grand Meridian's business center. March 22nd, $12 million moves through Sterling Industries Consulting, a shell company that exists only on paper. April 8th, Diana photographs encrypted drives being passed in room 1247. The drives contain wallet addresses for cryptocurrency accounts linked to known terrorist financing networks. April 15th, Sterling's assistant emails a list of blockchain addresses to contacts in 8 different countries. FBI cybercrimes intercepted every communication. May 3rd, Sterling wires $4 million to Patriot Defense Solutions, a company owned by Marcus Carter, the former NSA contractor who now sells classified information to domestic extremist groups. May 10th, that same $4 million gets converted to cryptocurrency and distributed to cells planning attacks on federal buildings. June 2nd, the money trail leads to something that makes Diana's blood run cold. Sterling's network has been funding the New America Coalition, a domestic terrorist organization that the FBI has been tracking for 2 years. The group's manifesto calls for the violent overthrow of the federal government and the establishment of a white ethno-state. June 15th, Sterling personally transfers $8 million to offshore accounts controlled by the coalition's leadership. The money gets used to purchase military-grade weapons, explosives, and surveillance equipment. Sterling isn't just laundering money for profit, he's actively funding people who want to destroy the country. The pattern becomes clear as Carter walks the team through months of accumulated evidence. Sterling Dynamics created 17 shell companies across 8 countries specifically to hide the source of terrorist funding. The Grand Meridian Hotel serves as the perfect cover because Sterling owns a significant stake in the hotel management company. Diana's photographs reveal the scope of the operation. Documents showing inflated government tech contracts where Sterling bills the Defense Department 400% above market rates. The excess money gets funneled through consulting fees to companies that exist only to launder funds for terrorist operations. Bank records show $127 million moved through Sterling's network over 18 months. Every transaction designed to convert legitimate government contracts into untraceable payments for people planning mass violence against American citizens. The email evidence tells an even darker story. Sterling to business partner Jake Morrison, these service people are invisible, perfect cover for moving packages without anyone paying attention. Sterling to his lawyer Harold Blackwood, if any staff get curious, manufacture cause for termination or arrest. Sterling to his accountant Sarah Wilson. The cleaning lady was taking pictures in the conference room. We need to handle this situation permanently. That email, sent just hours before Sterling assaulted Diana, shows premeditation and consciousness of guilt. But the investigation reveals Sterling wasn't operating alone. The conspiracy reaches into corporate boardrooms, government contracting offices, and law enforcement agencies. Detective Marcus Williams from Boston PD has been feeding Sterling information about federal investigations in exchange for $50,000 per month. City Councilman Robert Hayes approved zoning variances for Sterling's properties despite knowing about their use in money laundering operations. The councilman's campaign received $200,000 in donations from Sterling's shell companies over the past 3 years. The chain of similar incidents stretches back years. Maria Santos, the former hotel housekeeper, was fired after photographing suspicious meetings between Sterling and known arms dealers. Restaurant server David Kim got sued for theft after witnessing money transfers in Sterling's private dining room. Parking attendant Jerome Williams was arrested on fabricated drug charges after recognizing license plates of vehicles used in terrorist financing operations. Diana's real mission becomes clear. She's part of Operation Clean Sweep, a 3-year federal investigation targeting tech industry money laundering that funds domestic terrorism. Sterling's network connects to a larger scheme involving government contract fraud that spans 12 states and involves over $2 billion in stolen taxpayer funds. The FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit provides psychological profiles of Sterling's organization. These aren't desperate criminals driven by poverty or ideology. They're wealthy, educated individuals who believe their economic status grants them immunity from consequences. They see themselves as patriots while funding people who want to murder federal agents and blow up government buildings. Tomorrow's planned transfer would have completed the laundering cycle for the largest payment yet. $50 million earmarked for the New America Coalition's summer offensive, a coordinated attack on federal buildings in 6 major cities. Diana's blown cover may have prevented the deadliest domestic terrorist attack since Oklahoma City. The stakes increase exponentially as the investigation expands. Every day Sterling remains free is another day his network can move money, destroy evidence, and warn co-conspirators. Every hour of delay potentially costs lives. Agent Carter closes the briefing with sobering mathematics. Sterling's operation has successfully funded 17 terrorist attacks over the past 2 years. Bombings of federal office buildings in Portland and Atlanta, assassination attempts on federal judges in Texas and California, mass shootings targeting government employees and their families. The viral video of Sterling assaulting Diana isn't just satisfying internet content. It's evidence in a terrorism case that could prevent hundreds of deaths and save taxpayers billions of dollars. Diana's undercover work has exposed a network that represents one of the most serious threats to American national security in decades. But now Sterling knows he's been discovered. And desperate terrorists with unlimited funding are the most dangerous criminals of all. 11:47 p.m. Diana Washington sits in her car outside her apartment building, staring at destruction. All 4 tires slashed, windows covered with dried eggs. threatening messages spray-painted in red letters. CIA bitch, go home. Know your place. Traitors die. The backlash escalated faster than predicted. Within 6 hours, someone leaked Diana's personal information online. Her home address, her daughter's college, her parents' retirement community. The doxing spread across white supremacist forums faster than law enforcement could track. Diana's phone buzzes constantly with death threats from anonymous numbers, voice messages filled with racial slurs, text messages describing torture plans, photos of her apartment building taken from different angles showing multiple people watching. Professional pressure comes from inside the government. CIA Deputy Director Marcus Hammond calls Diana into his office at 7 a.m. His face shows strain from congressional oversight committees and media disasters. Washington, you're burned. Sterling's lawyers are claiming entrapment, illegal surveillance, constitutional violations. Maybe we should consider reassignment until this dies down. Diana refuses. No, sir. We finished this operation. Sterling's network funds domestic terrorism. If we stop, people die. Agent Carter supports her decision but looks worried. Diana, they've threatened your family. This isn't just about you. These people have unlimited resources and no boundaries. The threats become personal. Diana's daughter Ashley calls from her college dormitory at Boston University, voice shaking. Mom, they're posting lies about you everywhere. They're saying you're a traitor, that you hate America. My sorority sisters are asking questions. Someone put flyers under dorm doors with your picture and our address. Campus security says they can't protect me. Diana's heart breaks listening to her 20-year-old daughter trying to understand why her mother's job puts their family in danger. Ashley worked her whole life to get into college, and now she might drop out because of death threats. Sterling's counterattack comes through private investigators and social media manipulation. Harold Blackwood hires former intelligence operatives to dig into Diana's background, looking for anything to discredit her testimony. They spread rumors about her mental health, family finances, and past relationships. Conservative social media influencers amplify the character assassination campaign. They post edited videos making Diana look aggressive and unstable. They share conspiracy theories about the federal government targeting innocent businessmen. They turn Sterling into a victim while painting Diana as a corrupt agent. The internal betrayal cuts deepest. Someone inside the hotel warned Sterling about ongoing surveillance. Security guard Marcus Johnson, who Diana thought trustworthy, reveals her room number to Sterling's private security team. The betrayal shows how Sterling's money corrupts people. Diana discovers the leak extent when she finds photographs of her daughter's college campus under her windshield wipers. The message is clear. Back off, or Ashley becomes a target. At 2 a.m., Diana sits in her car in an empty parking garage watching her apartment building. She questions whether maintaining cover was worth this price. 3 months of investigation might be destroyed by Sterling's lawyers and media manipulation. The breaking point comes when Diana finds Ashley's college ID card taped to her car door with a bullet hole through her daughter's photograph. The note contains Ashley's class schedule, dormitory room number, and a simple message, stop or she stops breathing. Diana calls her daughter immediately. Ashley is safe, locked in her dorm with campus security outside. But the terror in her voice makes Diana question everything. Mom, I'm scared. They know where I sleep, eat, and go to class. Maybe you should let this go. Maybe it's not worth it. But Diana remembers the evidence wall in the FBI office. $127 million funding domestic terrorism, planned attacks on federal buildings, weapons purchases for people who want to murder government employees and families. This isn't just about Sterling anymore. It's about every service worker dismissed and underestimated. It's about every black woman whose intelligence gets ignored. It's about stopping people who believe money grants immunity to hurt anyone. Diana Washington has spent 15 years fighting criminals who think they're untouchable. She's not stopping now. 7 a.m. the next morning, Diana's phone rings with an unexpected call. Teresa Tess Johnson, the hotel security guard who first recognized Diana's military bearing, has something to show her. They meet in a 24-hour diner 3 blocks from the Grand Meridian, away from Sterling's surveillance network. "Agent Washington," Tess says, sliding a tablet across the Formica table. "I've been recording Sterling's behavior since January. I couldn't prove anything before, but now that you've exposed him, I think this evidence might help." The tablet contains hours of footage that Tess secretly captured using personal recording equipment. Sterling screamed at housekeeping staff for moving his briefcase 2 inches. Sterling threatened a bartender with termination for serving his drink with the wrong garnish. Sterling physically pushed a valet who brought his car 30 seconds late. But the most damning footage shows Sterling's meetings with people Diana recognizes from FBI watch lists. Victor Kozlov handing Sterling encrypted drives in the hotel's private dining room. Marcus Carter receiving briefcases full of cash in exchange for classified NSA documents. Unknown men with military bearing discussing weapons purchases and target selection. "I started recording after he got Maria Santos fired," Tess explains. "Something about his behavior felt wrong. The former military recognizes dangerous people, and Sterling always felt like a threat waiting to happen." Maria Santos, the former housekeeper Sterling had terminated for asking too many questions, emerges from the diner's back booth. Her hands shake as she places a manila envelope on the table between Diana and Tess. "I kept copies," Maria says quietly. "Before they fired me, I photographed everything I could. Sterling's documents, his visitor logs, the packages that came through the hotel business center. The photographs reveal the scope of Sterling's operation in ways that 3 months of official surveillance missed. Images of cryptocurrency wallet addresses written on hotel stationery. Pictures of Sterling's handwritten notes detailing payment schedules to domestic terrorist cells. Copies of shipping manifests showing weapons deliveries to addresses controlled by the New America Coalition. Diana's phone buzzes with a text from Agent Carter. "Check the news. You're going to want to see this." CNN is running a breaking story about Sterling Dynamics government contracts. Investigative reporter Angela Hayes has spent 2 weeks analyzing public records and discovered that Sterling's company billed the Defense Department 400% above market rates for basic tech services. The overcharges total over $200 million across 5 years, but the story goes deeper. Hayes interviewed former Sterling Dynamics employees who described a culture of deliberate fraud. Software engineers are forced to inflate project timelines to justify massive billing increases. Accountants ordered to create fake subcontractor invoices for non-existent work. Project managers threatened termination if they reported the fraudulent billing to federal oversight agencies. The viral video of Sterling assaulting Diana has given other victims courage to come forward. Hotel workers from properties across Boston share similar stories of Sterling's abusive behavior. A bartender at the Four Seasons describes Sterling throwing a glass at his head for serving the wrong wine. A parking attendant at the Ritz-Carlton shows scars from where Sterling grabbed and twisted his arm for not retrieving his car fast enough. Social media amplifies these stories under the hashtag #SterlingAbuse. The collective testimony creates a pattern that even Sterling's expensive lawyers can't dismiss. This isn't an isolated incident of a stressed businessman losing his temper. This is systematic abuse of power spanning years and involving dozens of victims. Diana's handler reveals that the CIA has been tracking Sterling's network for 3 years as part of Operation Clean Sweep, a joint federal task force targeting tech industry money laundering that funds domestic terrorism. Diana's viral moment has provided the public support necessary to move forward with prosecution that might otherwise have been buried in classified proceedings. The digital evidence keeps growing. IT specialist James Rivera, the hotel's nervous manager who was receiving threatening phone calls from Sterling's people, finally decides to cooperate with federal investigators. He reveals that Sterling demanded access to the hotel's server room and installed private encryption equipment for communications with terrorist financiers. Rivera provides copies of every encrypted message that passed through Sterling's private server. Communications discussing package deliveries that are actually weapons shipments. Conversations about consultation fees that are really payments to domestic terrorist cells. Sterling's own words documenting his role in funding groups that plan mass violence against American citizens. The unedited security footage from Diana's assault gets released through federal channels, showing 14 minutes of Sterling's escalating aggression without any cuts or edits. The footage captures Sterling's racist language, his physical violence, and his complete loss of control in ways that even expensive public relations firms can't spin. Diana's CIA handler, Agent Carter, reveals the full scope of their investigation. Washington. Sterling's operation isn't just money laundering. He's been converting legitimate government contracts into cryptocurrency payments for the New America Coalition's summer offensive. Coordinated attacks on federal buildings in 6 major cities. We estimate his funding would have enabled the deadliest domestic terrorist attack since Oklahoma City. The raw financial data tells the complete story. 847 suspicious transactions totaling $127 million. 23 shell companies in 8 countries designed specifically to hide terrorist funding. 156 encrypted communications discussing weapons purchases and target selection. 67 instances of Sterling threatening or firing service workers who witnessed his criminal activities. Local civil rights organizations rally behind Diana, providing legal support and public relations assistance. The NAACP Legal Defense Fund offers to represent Diana in any civil litigation. Black professional networks across the country fundraise for her security and legal expenses, raising over $3 million in 48 hours, despite Diana never requesting financial support. The answer to the opening question becomes clear. Diana wasn't just investigating money laundering. She was preventing domestic terrorism on a scale that would have changed American history. Her willingness to maintain cover while being humiliated and assaulted may have saved hundreds of lives and preserved the stability of federal government operations. 48 hours after Diana's identity was revealed, the social media explosion reached unprecedented levels. #Janitor CIA hits 50 million views across all platforms. #Millionaire assault trends worldwide in 12 languages. #Underestimate. This becomes a rallying cry for working people dismissed and abused by wealthy customers. The hashtag evolution tells the story of a movement growing in real time. Sterling. Crimes reaches 23 million views as people share evidence of fraudulent government contracts. Service worker. Respect gains 15 million views as hotel, restaurant, and cleaning staff share stories of abuse by entitled customers. #Black Excellence. Hidden trends with 40 million views, celebrating Diana's intelligence. Outside Sterling Dynamics headquarters in Boston's financial district, protests begin spontaneously. No organizers, no permits, just angry citizens demanding answers. The crowd grows from 50 people Wednesday morning to over 5,000 by Friday afternoon. Protesters broadcast Sterling's crimes to worldwide audiences through live streams. The corporate pressure becomes overwhelming. Sterling's business partners cut ties in carefully worded press releases. Patriot Defense Solutions, the shell company that received $4 million for terrorist financing, dissolves overnight. 3 board members from Sterling Dynamics resign immediately. Sterling's stock price crashed 67% in 3 days. Government contracts worth $50 million get suspended pending federal investigation. The Defense Department launches audits of every Sterling Dynamics contract dating back 5 years. Congressional oversight committees announce hearings on defense contractor fraud. Celebrity support amplifies Diana's story beyond traditional news cycles. Olympic gymnast Simone Biles tweets, "Black women stay being underestimated until we're not. #underestimate this." Actor Michael B. Jordan shares the assault video with, "This is what courage looks like." Oprah dedicates an entire segment to Diana's story. The youth movement spreads across college campuses nationwide. Students at Harvard organize undercover justice demonstrations, highlighting how society underestimates service workers, women of color, and working-class intelligence. At Yale, students stage mock trials showing Sterling's crimes against democracy. At Howard University, criminal justice students analyze Diana's investigation techniques. Hotel workers across the hospitality industry form overnight unions, demanding protection for employees who report suspicious activity. The Grand Meridian staff creates the first worker protection union specifically designed to shield service employees from retaliation when witnessing criminal behavior by wealthy guests. Community fundraising for Diana's security reaches $4 million in 72 hours, despite Diana requesting donations go to organizations supporting other service workers facing retaliation. The GoFundMe page becomes a platform for sharing similar stories, creating a database of wealthy individuals who abuse service staff. Sterling's isolation becomes complete and public. His country club revokes membership. His private gym cancels his contract. The exclusive restaurant where he held business meetings bans him permanently. Former friends delete his contact information. The economic impact spreads beyond Sterling's immediate network. Hotels review policies for handling suspicious guest behavior. Restaurants train staff to recognize and report money laundering activities. The hospitality industry realizes service workers often have the best access to criminal behavior by wealthy customers. International media picks up the story as an example of American justice working correctly. BBC runs Undercover Agent exposes Millionaire's terror network. Deutsche Welle frames it as Service Worker Reveals Corporate Criminal Conspiracy. The story becomes a symbol of how democracy protects citizens when law enforcement operates effectively. Sterling's desperate attempts to control the narrative fail spectacularly. His third public statement, claiming he's the victim of government persecution, gets ratioed on Twitter within minutes. Public relations firms refuse to represent someone associated with domestic terrorism funding. The movement moves beyond social media into concrete political action. Congressional representatives from both parties demand investigations into defense contractor fraud. State attorneys general announce investigations into Sterling's business practices within their jurisdictions. Diana's courage inspires a nationwide conversation about hidden excellence in marginalized communities and the importance of never underestimating anyone based on job title or appearance. The viral moment has become a catalyst for systemic change in how society values and protects service workers, who often witness the most dangerous criminal activities. Federal Courthouse, Boston. 10 a.m. Friday morning. Marble steps packed with reporters, protesters, and federal agents as the most anticipated press conference in recent memory begins. Diana Washington stands beside FBI Director Sarah Martinez and CIA Deputy Director Marcus Hammond, wearing an elegant navy suit that contrasts sharply with the janitor uniform the world saw 1 week ago. The visual transformation is stunning and deliberate. Diana's CIA pin catches morning sunlight. Her posture radiates the confidence of someone who spent 15 years taking down dangerous criminals. The woman forced to lick shoes and called nobody now commands national attention. Ladies and gentlemen, FBI Director Martinez begins. Today we announce the largest domestic terrorism funding bust in American history. For 3 months, Special Agent Diana Washington infiltrated a network that funneled $127 million in stolen taxpayer money to groups planning mass violence against American citizens. Diana steps to the microphone with the calm authority of someone waiting for this moment since Sterling grabbed her hair in the hotel lobby. For 3 months, I emptied trash cans and mopped floors while watching Sterling Dynamics convert legitimate government contracts into cryptocurrency payments for domestic terrorist organizations. Today, we're returning that stolen money to the American people and preventing what would have been the deadliest attack on federal facilities since Oklahoma City. A large screen behind Diana displays evidence that will destroy Sterling's life. Real-time footage of federal agents freezing Sterling's offshore accounts. Bank records showing millions flowing to the New America Coalition. Encrypted communications between Sterling and terrorist cell leaders discussing weapons purchases and target selection. The climactic moment comes when Sterling arrives at the courthouse in an expensive legal convoy. His lawyers look confident until they see the crowd gathered on courthouse steps. Sterling steps out wearing a $1,000 suit, silver hair perfectly styled, still believing money and connections can save him. The crowd recognizes him immediately, phones thrust into air, voices shouting, "That's him!" and "Terrorist!" Sterling's face shows confusion, then anger, then fear as he realizes the magnitude of what's happening. Sterling pushes through reporters, his entitled rage overriding his lawyer's advice to stay silent. "This is all lies!" he shouts, pointing directly at Diana. "She's nothing! A lying janitor! This is all fake!" His outburst, caught on live television by 15 news cameras, becomes an instant viral moment. The contrast between Diana's composed dignity and Sterling's unhinged desperation couldn't be starker. A millionaire losing complete control while a federal agent maintains perfect professionalism. Diana responds with a single devastating sentence that will be replayed millions of times. "Mr. Sterling, I'm the nobody who just saved American lives by stopping your terrorist funding operation." The crowd erupts in cheers. The moment crystallizes everything about power, respect, and justice driving this story. Sterling called Diana nobody, but she's standing with federal directors while he's about to be led away in handcuffs. The game-changing evidence drop continues as Diana presents final pieces of Sterling's criminal puzzle. Audio recordings of Sterling personally authorizing payments to terrorist cells. Video footage of weapons deliveries to addresses controlled by the New America Coalition. Financial records showing Sterling knew exactly where his money was going. "Mr. Sterling didn't just launder money," Diana continues, her voice carrying across the courthouse plaza. "He actively funded people planning to bomb federal buildings, assassinate government officials, and murder American citizens. His network enabled 17 terrorist attacks over the past 2 years. Sterling's lawyers attempt damage control, but their client destroys their efforts with another public meltdown. "You can't prove anything. I'm a legitimate businessman. This is persecution." His desperate protests sound hollow against overwhelming evidence. The arrest happens in front of 50 million live stream viewers. Federal agents approach Sterling with handcuffs as his lawyers finally succeed in getting him to stop talking. The entitled millionaire who thought wealth granted immunity walks toward a federal courthouse where he'll face terrorism charges. Diana watches Sterling's perp walk with satisfaction 15 years of federal service has earned. The man who spit in her face, grabbed her hair and called her nobody, now faces life in prison for funding domestic terrorism. The press conference concludes with Diana announcing that Sterling's arrest has already prevented the planned summer offensive against federal buildings in 6 major cities. Hundreds of lives saved because a CIA agent was willing to maintain cover while being humiliated by someone who thought service workers were invisible. As Sterling disappears into the courthouse, Diana addresses cameras one final time. "To everyone who's ever been underestimated because of your job, your race, or your background, your intelligence and dignity matter. Never let anyone convince you otherwise." The crowd's applause echoes off courthouse marble as justice finally arrives. 6 months later, the federal courthouse delivers justice Diana Washington fought for. Bradford Sterling receives 24 years in federal prison for money laundering, terrorism funding, tax evasion, and assault on a federal officer. $200 million in assets get forfeited, with victims' families receiving compensation. Diana stands in the courtroom wearing her blue CIA uniform, watching Sterling's final moment. The man who called her nobody and forced her to kneel now sits in shackles, his empire destroyed by the intelligence of the woman he underestimated. The CIA Director's Award for Excellence ceremony takes place 1 week later. Diana receives the agency's highest honor for preventing domestic terrorism and exposing the largest money laundering operation in recent history. Her promotion to Deputy Assistant Director makes her one of the youngest people ever to reach that level. The Grand Meridian Hotel implements sweeping changes that become industry standard. Teresa Johnson gets promoted to Head of Security. Maria Santos returns with back pay and promotion. The Sterling protocols now require hotels to report suspicious financial activity and protect employees from retaliation. Congress passes the Service Worker Protection Act, requiring businesses to establish clear channels for reporting criminal activity without fear of termination. The legislation strengthens rights for hotel, restaurant, and cleaning staff nationwide. Diana's daughter Ashley writes her college essay about her mother's courage. The Janitor Who Changed America wins the university's writing competition and earns Ashley acceptance to Harvard Law School. The ripple effects continue spreading. Dozens of similar cases emerge as service workers report suspicious behavior by wealthy guests. Diana's example inspires a nationwide movement where previously invisible workers become law enforcement allies. But Diana's story isn't finished. In her elegant office at CIA headquarters, she reviews a new case file. Photos show a tech CEO meeting with foreign operatives at a luxury resort in Miami Beach. Intelligence suggests arms trafficking through hotel business centers. Diana smiles. Reaching into her desk drawer, she pulls out a housekeeper's uniform, freshly cleaned and ready for another undercover operation. "Agent Martinez," she calls to her partner, "pack your cleaning supplies. We're going to Miami, and someone needs to learn that underestimating the help is the biggest mistake you can make." The after-credit scene shows Diana walking through Miami Beach International Airport, pulling a cleaning cart, ready to take down another criminal who thinks service workers are invisible. Hit subscribe because Agent Washington's next case involves a billionaire trafficking arms through a luxury resort.